Yes, it's Monday, and I'm sure everybody's still feeling a little bit of the hangover and the heartbreak of a difficult loss yesterday to Seattle Seahawks. Cleveland Browns lose 24-20 yesterday in Seattle. But John Kosko from PFF is here. We're going to put it under the lens, and your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger, join the everyday crowd by being subscribed to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Like I said, John Kosko from PFF is here. We're going to put it under the lens. Look, we still got work to do. We can't sit around crying over spilled milk. Got to transition from this week to a home game of the Cardinals. Browns still 4-3, and looking at most of the odds and the projections right now, that would put them as the 7th seed currently in the AFC. John, I mean, I don't know if we need to get too much in depth onto the 3rd and 3 call. That was pretty much the entire post-game show yesterday, and I hear people are still talking about it, apparently. But, John, the offensive grades, some thoughts here from you. I do want to talk about the quarterback, and I certainly want to talk, because I couldn't shut up last week for the Browns to try to get running back Pierre Strong more involved. I think it was 11 total touches for 82 yards. But, John, the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that PJ Walker continues to play really bad football. And he get it done the previous 2 weeks? I quote unquote get it done. Sure, that's the Browns were winning it despite of him. And I think for Walker, in the 3 starts, he's got like 9 turnover-worthy throws and just like 3 big-time throws. He's not taking care of the football, and then he's also not accurate when he's not, when he's, kept clean. He's just playing really bad football. His PFF grade of like a 29.7 is, like 20 points worse than the next worst quarterback in the NFL, which is Gardner Minshew. So for me, it could be a different discussion, but I think you need to seriously look at DTR if Watson's still not able to go next week. Rest of the offense was not great as well, though. Offensive line, I think, had arguably their worst game of the year. Ethan Pochik was pretty solid, but Dehaun Jones had his worst game of the season at a 41.3. He gave up a sack and some pressures, struggling in a run and in pass protection. And then I think, from a weapon standpoint, they really did come through. Kareem Hunt was excellent. Unfortunately, he didn't see the field in the 4th quarter. Cooper was again really, really solid, and then David Njoku was the top graded offensive player for the Browns at 88.2. He was very good in that game. So some mixed bag things, but when you have a quarterback that's just playing as bad as he is, like just average quarterback play wins you that game easily.
Well, I for Dehaun Jones, these are always, Seattle's just a little bit of a different breed as far as how they get after the passer. I mean, a lot of these guys really aren't traditionally considered defensive ends are considered linebackers. All of these guys are probably undersized if you're considering them as true edge type players. And these are the guys, look, there's nothing Dehaun Jones can technically do about this. I mean, the size that he is, and these guys, they know the game. Don't get touched, because if he gets a hand on me, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's where his strength is. Like if he's able to get his hands on you, it's game over for a defensive end. And generally, what he's been really solid all year long. And I didn't even see specifically what happened for him to come out of the game and his injury or whatever. But he just if he wasn't able to get his hands on those rushers, and they were just a bit too quick. And that's what your fear is when it comes to for him, is that if he can't get his hands on the guy, that guy's just going to be too quick to get around him. So he, rookie struggles, first time probably seeing that type of an edge rusher. So he's seeing it a little bit differently. So maybe he'll be able to correct and get better from that.
Now, getting to, the talk of the quarterback thing here, and this is where, I don't want to say DTR got a raw deal, but I think for the Browns, obviously the way he had to play against the Raven game, basically just put in there. And obviously nobody knew till a little bit after 10:30 that morning that it was going to be DTR. And, for everybody, who keeps telling me about the last call, oh, well, just go vanilla. Guess what? You went vanilla against the Ravens. How did that work out? Oh, well, Coach Steph is getting too cute. Well, when you have a backup quarterback, a third-string quarterback, sometimes you have to get cute because you're not just going to beat these guys with vanilla, because that's what they tried to do against the Ravens. It absolutely got beat down. But even if these last couple of weeks, and I'm not saying that the same would have happened as far as, winning the Colts game, winning the San Francisco 49ers game, probably should have won the game yesterday. But the way we're talking about PJ Walker, if this was DTR, we'd have a little bit more positive outlook, John, because here would be a 5th-round rookie forced into a really difficult situation. And look, hopefully neither one of these guys have to play Sunday. But if you look at this Cardinal game and then you look that it is Ravens Steelers again stacked up after that, you maybe want to go without Deshaun, even if you think he's ready this week. But why not DTR? Just because, hey, he is the long-term here. And, the Cardinal team is not good. And if you want to go vanilla, you probably can beat the Cardinals with vanilla.
Yeah. Think about it too, right? So, is there a positive, bright spot that you can look at PJ Walker's game this year that would say, all right, there's something to work with there? And there really isn't. He's struggling when he's kept clean. He struggles when he's under pressure, which is, you'd expect. He struggles against the blitz, and he struggles when he's not blitzed. He's not playing well in all facets of the game. And so you just think from that aspect, it's like, all right, what was it that he's providing for us? It's just a veteran leadership type of standpoint where, DTR isn't quite there. Does DTR not know the playbook as well? Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I would say that you can't really play worse than what PJ Walker is playing. We saw again in the game against the Ravens. Yeah, he did not play well at all. And you could say, yeah, he wasn't mentally prepared because he was expecting Deshaun Watson to play all week. Maybe he didn't prepare himself well, and that's why they're not playing him as hey, this guy's not getting prepared for the game. But at this point, I think that was maybe there's a wake up call there for the young kid. Maybe he knows I got to be mentally prepared every single time for every single game. I would give him a shot at this point because there's not really anything, the Cardinals. I mean, here's the thing, right? In the NFL, you're never as bad as you think you are, and you're never as good as you think you are, right? These teams are so close in terms of talent level across the board. You can't go into Arizona expecting that you're just going to win the game. We've seen that before with teams losing. I just 2 weeks ago, nobody thought the Browns would beat the 49ers, and nobody thought who did the Eagles lose to? Whoever the Eagles lost to, I can't even remember now. But the Jets, that's right. Jets with a Zach Wilson playing garbage football, right? So I just think that you still have to go into that game and prepare they can beat you and win, to go out there and win that game and not lay an egg. But I think that you can definitely go in there with a game plan with DTR and win that game as long as you show up to play.
As you can see, we've got Mr. Rock Chalk Jayhawk in here himself. John Kosko obviously celebrating a big victory over the weekend. Kansas Jayhawks taking down the Oklahoma Sooners. We're going to switch it up here. We're going to get a little bit to the defensive side of the ball because sometimes things look great, but versus what is actually happening causes a little disconnect. We're going to get to that next. Appreciate everybody sticking along for the ride. Time to pull out your Lucky Charm jersey and order your favorite apps and snacks on DoorDash because it's football season again. Cleveland fans, why don't you check out Mike's Diner menu. You got enough to appease the entire household. You got a bunch of people there if they're looking for sandwiches. They're looking for burgers. They're looking for appetizers. Mike's Diner has got you covered every which way but loose. Kick back at kickoff with unbeatable deals on everything you need for the watch party or tailgate. Score football season's best deals on groceries, restaurants, retail, and more. Get prepared before game day. Stock up on your favorite appetizers and order all your tailgate gear on DoorDash. Then get ready to watch your team win. Get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change. Terms apply. That's 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23. Of course, subject to change. Terms apply. Do not forget to use promo code LOCK23 for 50% off up to $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change. Terms apply. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day and join the everyday crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, obviously, John, the last 2 weeks defensively, it's been a little bit disappointing. You're still getting some big plays. You're still getting some wow factors. You know, the Martin Emerson interception yesterday for me last night on the postgame show, I tried to say, look, when you want a definition of running the route for a receiver, that is exactly what Martin Emerson Jr. did yesterday. Myles Garrett with a big sack. But, John, you can't have it all. So you can't have -2, -3, give up 36. So there seems to be a little bit of discontent here. I mean, a little dissension, I want to say, maybe between overall grades and the actual performance that's going on. Because, the way it had worked, the Ravens game obviously was difficult. They did not do well. Defense played better, inspired against San Francisco 49ers. Laid an egg last week against the Colts, which maybe thought I was going to get I thought maybe we were going to get a little bit more of a dominant performance. But those first 4 weeks or so, absolute dominant football. But now you're getting here to the point where this is 2 bad weeks together. And we're talking about almost, 700 yards given up by this team over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. So, first 5 games, they gave up like 1,000 yards, and the last 2 of 700 yards. So this is where defense is not a stable, year to year, even week to week type of, even half season to half season type thing, right? It's unstable because a lot of it highly depends on game situation, where it's played, who you're playing. You look at the Browns season so far, they go against Burrow, a hurt Burrow, and bad conditions. So they look really good. The next week they go against the Steelers. They played really well, except for giving up a big play on a busted coverage to George Pickens for like a 71-yard touchdown. They absolutely dominate the Titans. That's no question about that. They're also not a very good deep offense. Then they get roasted by the Ravens, who are a good offense that we found out, and obviously Lamar Jackson's playing extremely well. But again, if you're a great defense, you should be able to hold your own a little bit better there. People argue, well, the offense didn't give them anything. It's like, well, the Ravens defense shut down the Browns offense. They were out on the field at the same time. So they were able to do what they needed to do. The 49ers game, they played well. But, again, Christian McCaffrey got hurt. Deebo Samuel got hurt. It was rainy conditions there. And also Brock Purdy missed on a number of throws that were open. So you go into this next game against the Colts, and you're thinking, all right, well, they're going to dominate again because the Colts don't have a very good offense. It's Gardner Minshew playing. Well, they then get torched for 38 points. And then this game, they give up 17 points in the first 3 drives of the game. They shut it down in the next 2 quarters, but when it mattered, they gave up the game-winning touchdown drive, and like that, a blink of an eye. It was as if they just laid over and just let them run all over them. So when it comes to these grades, so people were arguing and getting mad at PFF about how bad the grades and stuff like that. Well, if you look at the team grades, as of right now, they are 9th in overall team defensive grades with a 73.6. They're actually tied with the Falcons at that point. Pass rush, they are second best in the NFL, and it's mostly elevated by Myles Garrett, who's having an unreal year. And then, but coverage wise, they're at a 65.1, which is not great, right? It's okay, but it's not bad. It's not good by any means. It definitely doesn't match the perception that this past defense has been great. You look at some of these plays that have happened, right? So I talked about like Brock Purdy missing a bunch of throws. Joe Burrow missed a bunch of throws in his game that were with open receivers, and that's what matters. Is that like if the quarterback has a throw to make and he's missing the throws, just because the quarterback missed the throw or maybe a receiver dropped the pass, we're not positively grading the coverage guy because of an overthrow from the quarterback, unless they're in tight coverage and they would be in position to break up a pass if it was accurate, or they're cutting off the route or something like that. That's not what's happening for the Browns. They have made some plays on the ball, but they've also busted a number of big plays. They've given up a number of big plays. They missed a lot of tackles, and they've been kind of lucky because the pass rush has gotten to the quarterback. But they haven't had good coverage on the back end of that as well on a consistent basis. So that's where the disconnect is that just because a quarterback misses a throw, doesn't mean that the defense forced the missed throw. And that would be
we would call that the Richard Sherman, Odell Beckham Jr. 2019 Monday Night Football
yes.
case. Yes, I remember those days well. But John, defensively, but you've gotten some nice surprises here. Ogbonnia Okoronkwo, obviously he'd kind of been doing this, and just now for the Browns, it's a bigger sample size. And I don't think there's a guy I'm more excited about on this Browns defense right now than Maurice Hurst. And a lot of people, hey, maybe he should play a little bit more. But hey, if you only get 50% of Mo, it's better than none of Mo. So there's other guys here and guys that have stepped up here, and it's really been refreshing to see. And I just like it more for, granted, Alex Wright went down yesterday, so Myles pretty much had to empty the tank. They didn't really have a choice, and obviously the game situation as well. But it's really nice to start seeing plays get made either at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield and see, wow, it was somebody besides 95.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at Obo. He had 6 pressures in the game yesterday. Was basically wreaking havoc and helping things out. Myles Garrett had the sack. He had 5 other hurries as well. So like he was getting after the quarterback as well. The thing is that why it didn't look as disruptive for the Browns defense is that Geno Smith was making passes. He was getting rid of the ball quickly. So his average time to throw is 2.5 seconds. It's hard to get to the quarterback in that short amount of time. That's a quick throw. And it's, by design, because they want to limit what Myles Garrett can do to you. If you hold on to the ball long enough, Myles Garrett's going to get home and make plays. And they double and triple teamed Myles Garrett pretty much all game long. He got a few opportunities with one-on-one opportunities. Mo Hurst, that was an incredible play by him to be able to knock that pass up in the air and then intercept it himself. That's pretty rare for a defensive tackle to be able to make that type of play. And he's been excellent when he's been out in the field. One of the highest graded defensive interior linemen in the NFL. I know he's just a part-time player this year, but that's, he's still making plays. And, if you basically the 7th highest graded interior defensive lineman this year at an 87.9. So he's for the flyer that they took on the guy, absolutely worth every single penny there with the plays that he's been able to make. So I think with this defensive line, they've been really good. Unfortunately, Zadarius Smith decided to take the day off with a 40.4 grade, and was just basically almost like non-existent in this game, especially from a run defensive standpoint. So like I think the defensive line has been good this year, but they need to have more complement to Myles Garrett. And I think they disappeared a little bit too much for my liking, even though people might not see that. Especially this game, I think you saw Geno Smith felt like he had all the time in the world back there, or he wasn't pressured, and it was mainly because you're only getting it from Myles or Obo. And while Dalvin Tomlinson was kind of neutralized up front, Zadarius Smith was neutralized as well.
Yeah, and it's been tough, and we're going to get to something on the edge rushers, and we're going to talk a little bit more about 95 here. We're going to get to your third and final segment here. Jeff Lloyd, joined by PFF's John Kosko. Appreciate everybody sticking around. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Everything's working. Segment 3 here, closing out your latest Locked On Browns PFF. John Kosko in the house. John, so much of this is predicated on team record, team success. But after last week and the run that he's on here, you really feel that this really could be the chance for Myles Garrett, obviously, as far as defensive player of the year. And, maybe it all started and, maybe everybody's familiarizing themselves with number 95, because it's not every day you see a man 6'4.5", 285 pounds, frog jump a man who's 6'4", 320 pounds like he did in Indianapolis. But this could be the year. It really could be. And I think part of it, and the biggest reason why is you got a cast of cronies now where basically the game plan for the other team can't be, if we got to throw 9 guys at 95, I'll let anybody else kill my quarterback before I will let him.
Yeah, he's been the best edge rusher in the NFL for a couple of years now. And maybe people are only kind of noticing it now because he's on a defense that also is producing the results along with him. It's basically been, you could argue Myles Garrett and no friends around him, as he's trying to do everything himself, getting double and triple teamed and still creating, pressures and sacks. This year he has friends. And, while I said that they've kind of disappeared some at times, they've been a lot better than what we've seen in years past. And it helps in that regard. His pass rush grade this year is a 94.5, which is, ridiculously high. Overall 93.1. It's by far the highest grade of any edge defender this year. And I think if he keeps getting the sacks, it's the lazy way to do it for voters, but it seems to be the way to get the defensive player of the year is to be the highest sack total guy on the best defense. And I think, you saw it with Nick Bosa last year. He was on the best defense. He was tied for the highest sack, or maybe he was, sacking or whatever it was, but he was, that's kind of where it was. And then also the Micah Parsons getting the All-Pro over Myles Garrett, which is ridiculous in itself too. I think Micah Parsons is an absolute stud player. I'm not taking anything away from those two guys, but Myles Garrett has just been on a different level. His pass rush win rate is insanely high, much higher than those two guys, near 29% versus the low 20s for those other guys. So the way he wins and what he's asked to do, it's just so much better than what those other guys are being able to do. So, if the Browns defense can keep up what they've been doing this year, he should be able to get it as long as he continues to get those sacks.
John, the Browns have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of day 3 draft choices. If there's one thing, maybe one guy out there, position, maybe if you don't have a name, what is one thing that maybe the Browns could address between now and Tuesday at 4:00 that you think would make a tremendous difference for this team?
I think there's two areas where I would look to address, and that would be another offensive lineman to, especially the swing tackle position. So if DeJuan Jones got hurt in this game, if he or Jedrick Wills goes down, then you're asking for what's his face to
who comes in and then does the Hudson role once Hudson's a starter. Exactly.
Right, exactly. So you got Hudson that starts, and then it's Ty Neshke, but then Ty Neshke got hurt in the game yesterday when they elevated him. So I think they need another offensive lineman to have that as a swing tackle. You and I, we're not big fans of Jed Wills, but he's a body that can be out there that's can play and obviously knows the system or whatever, even though he's not great by any means. I would say that they still need another guy to be able to put in there. So I could see a trade for a quality swing tackle. And then I could see a trade for another wide receiver to get more out of the position.
The whole DPJ thing this year, I mean, if you had said in the beginning of the season that Donovan Peoples-Jones, who was basically trending towards 1,000-yard season last year, to now be through, 7 games and still have single-digit receptions, that is just one thing that absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, that is a bit shocking to me. And it's been a weird year because of the fact that, Deshaun Watson's shoulder's been hurt. Then so you're playing a rookie quarterback in that one game. Nick Chubb being hurt kind of, maybe changes things in terms of how they're going to play offensively, how they attack opponents and stuff like that. And then you got PJ Walker, who has just been really bad. So it's like, it's been a weird year in that regard. I would so like for me, I've never been high on DPJ. I think he's a decent player for what he's been. So like, he's never going to be a separator. He's not going to take the top off defenses. He's going to be a guy that you should be able to rely on in contested catch type situations. That's the type of guy that he is, a possession type receiver over the middle of the field that you can put the ball into with a high catch radius. Now, like if Jerry Jeudy's open, available for trade, which he's been rumored for 9+ years now that he's available for trade.
The day they drafted him,
right? Exactly. So like if he's available, like he's a guy that can separate. The thing that makes me hesitant about him is that he seems to be it's difficult to get on the same page with his quarterback. Like even without I can't remember who the quarterback was before Russell Wilson, but now even with Russell Wilson, he doesn't seem to be on the same page. They did have a really good game yesterday, that's for sure, against the Kansas City Chiefs. And maybe they're starting to click there, but it does seem to take time for him to get on the same page with his quarterback. So that is a big question mark for me. But I would say that you should try to find a guy that you can rely on to get open as a number 3 wide receiver, because I don't think Marquise Goodwin is like a traditional number 3 guy. He's a guy that you just get open deep and maybe hit him some shot plays. They need to utilize Elijah Moore differently, which they started to do in that game yesterday, where he's more of a downfield threat rather than a gadget player, because he's not a gadget player. He is an outside wide receiver that you need to be able to get the ball downfield. And I think you need to help out those guys, because obviously they seem to not have trust in David Bell or Cedric Tillman just yet to run the full gamut of plays, but they lack for speed. And so they need to have some sort of speed threat that can win. I mean, it's hard to do, right? It's an NFL, but like, I think Jerry Jeudy has the type of speed that you'd want. There's receivers in the NFL that can get you that speed that you want. And Cooper is a great player, but he's not the speed threat. And I think they need more of that speed.
They're lacking verticality once again. It's something that's been an issue regardless of who the quarterback was for the Kevin Stefanski system. He is John Kosko, part of PFF. Now we're back to normal times here. We're a little bit more set up and ingrained here into the schedule as we've made the transition into the new Locked On Browns studios. We'll get a little more consistent with this. Make sure everybody's following at John Kosko 3, myself, Jeff Lloyd. Now 7th season here covering the Browns for you all at Locked On Browns. I appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on ELOB. Let's go, Browns.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On. You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.